Hi everybody, happy Saturday to you. I hope you're doing well wherever you are in the world. Kirsty, Goddess of Neptune here, just bringing you an astrology overview for the Jupiter-Chiron conjunction. Now, Jupiter and Chiron have been conjunct for some time, but I'm talking about exact conjunction, same degrees, same minutes. So I'm going to pull up the chart in a second to show you. But what this conjures up to me is certainly about healing, because we've got Chiron, so wounds that may be coming up to the surface or may have been for some time. Remember, we've been going through this extensive period of transformation, and deep transformation at that, profound. Chiron is there to remind us of our healing journey, and when we can unlock the secrets to that, it can help us, certainly with regards to the other planetary aspects that are going on as well, that are unique to your natal chart. So Jupiter comes along, big expansive energy, and could be really expanding those wounds or expanding that visibility of where we need to heal. But on the other side, it brings hope. Jupiter brings hope, and great hope at that, because of the expansive energy, and it is a big, gas giant. So there is hope in terms of our healing journey. Everything that we're doing, the work that we're putting into our healing journey, there is hope coming out of that. So we need to remember that, because this has been long and hard for a lot of us, challenging, and we've had to embrace transformation, the need for change. We've got big energy going on at the moment. Saturn, of course, having just transited into Pisces. How has that gone for you all this week, by the way? And we've also got Pluto that's going to be moving into Aquarius very soon as well. So without further ado, let's get the chart up. Okay, bear with me whilst I just bring this up onto the screen. Okay. So hopefully you can see there, we have, with the yellow marks at the bottom, I've just indicated where Jupiter and Chiron have the exact conjunction. So as I mentioned, they have been conjunct for a time, because they have been close to each other, getting closer. This is the exact conjunction of practically being on top of one another. So same degrees, same minutes. We've got 14 degrees and 26. So this is happening in Aries, all about the self and the warrior self at that, the sovereign self. So these wounds that may have been coming up to the surface for a while now could have been relating to our worth when it comes to our self. And I know the second house is all about worth and values, that's Taurus energy. Aries is the starting off point, the first house, the self, and really needing us to look within at the warrior within, the strength that we need to get through this journey we call life. And of course, when wounds come up to the surface, it can create a bit of instability, but it's so that we can work through these wounds, so that we can take the wisdom of what's happened in the past, what's going on in the present, and we can transmute that energy and move forward, but with that enhanced wisdom within. So we know then when we're going to approach a similar situation on our journey, we know how to deal with it, because we've already gone through it, we've processed that pain, we've processed that trauma, and we can move forward. And these wounds could have been coming up from childhood trauma, abandonment issues, however it resonates, if it resonates at all for you. But anything that could be coming up for healing, something coming up to the surface for attention that needs to be recognized, needs to be accepted, and then needs to be processed accordingly in whatever way that might be, because we can use pain of the past to serve us going forward. And that might sound completely backwards. But without going through that, how do we know how strong we can be? And also, when we can go through this journey and we can heal and we become stronger as a result, we're also empowering others to do the same. So we're shining our lights bright when we can navigate this healing journey, and when we can come out of it stronger, because it empowers other people that may only just be starting their healing journey to do the same. They can see your light shining, and that light is infectious, because it then enables more in the collective to get empowered and to get more enlightened, to receive that wisdom that's come from your healing journey that will serve them on their healing journey. And as I mentioned before, Jupiter is that big expansive energy. And being on top of Chiron now, it's almost expanding the visibility of the healing that's needed, or wounds that have needed attention. But if this has already been highlighted to you and you're going through this, and we have been going through healing, it's a ever-evolving journey of life. So this will not be coming as a surprise, but it could just be more intense right now. But it could be bringing up more to the surface, especially after the full moon in Virgo that we had, with Saturn entering Pisces on the same day. So this could be a big sort of wake up to those aspects, if that's resonating for you. But remember the lighter side of it, the hope that comes from this, because we also have that feminine energy within Aries as well. We have Venus, and of course, at one point, Venus was conjunct with Chiron, giving that sort of metaphorical hug, as I've referred to it in a previous video, around Chiron, almost embracing the wounds and saying, you've got this, you can get through this, nurturing Chiron through, and therefore nurturing us through, as above, so below, as within, so without. And we have also the asteroid Vesta in Aries as well, bringing that sacred flame energy, divine feminine. Think of Goddess Bridget, that energy coming forward to assist with this. And Vesta is also at 14 degrees. The minutes are different, but 14 degrees. So you have actually got that conjunction, the exact conjunction between Jupiter and Chiron, but the conjunction with Vesta as well. So there is still that nurturing essence to the healing journey that we're going through. And remember, Aries is a masculine sign, really, a masculine energy, represented in tarot, of course, by the Emperor. And it is that masculine drive to go after what we want. Again, it's that warrior within, thinking of the self, this is what I want, and having the courage to execute that. So the feminine energy that's here, whilst all of this is going on in the masculine sign of Aries, is bringing that balance, because the feminine energy is nurturing what's really needed to give us the courage to move forward. Because if we're having to heal wounds, we're having to accept wounds, that can be intense, that can be emotional, that can be bringing up a lot of things. So it's giving us that nurturing essence that we need to get through it in order to have the courage to see this healing journey through. So hope that makes sense. And hopefully that resonates in some way if you are going through a lot of healing at the moment. Now, we know that the energy has been calling for change, certainly since Uranus went direct, but also even before that, because I keep referring to the Scorpio eclipses that we had way back when, and the transformation that was being called for then. And we know that Pluto is at the final degrees of Capricorn, about to transit into Aquarius later on this month. I believe it's the 23rd. And of course, time zones are going to be different, but I will be doing a further report on that. And that's that deep transformation. It's that scorpionic energy. It's the deep purge of the transformation that's needed, really emerging from that cocoon as the butterfly, but having to go through and wade through all that gunk to get to that point, because it has to be cleared out. That gunk has to be cleared out, and it's coming from the depths of the soul. So that can be hard. So all that healing journey that's going on at the moment within Aries, the masculine energy calling us to get it done for our own warrior self's sake, and the feminine energy nurturing us through that. Pluto's also calling for that transformation. Get this done, get this done. You know, this is hard at the end of Capricorn, because Capricorn is Saturn's house. We know Saturn is now in Pisces. So that's also bringing with it lessons. And I know I've done a video, my last video, which was on the Saturn in Pisces transit with the full moon in Virgo, because that was almost an interrogation, with the full moon prepping us, because it came in about 55 minutes before Saturn then opened the door and said, hi, I'm in Pisces season now. Have you learned your lessons from the time I was in Aquarius? What do we need to sort out now moving forward? So that can bring pressure, energetic pressure. And we can't be too hard on ourselves with all of this. Saturn is there to support us in getting things done, but also to hold us accountable to where we have learned our lessons and where we know we need to take action. But that, on top of the healing journey, can feel intense for some. But the Piscean energy should allow Saturn to flow a bit more. It's going to soften that Saturn energy in some respects. And we have got Mercury still in Pisces, allowing for the communication to source energy, as I've also referred to before, that connection with our intuition is source energy. That's from the divine. We are part of source energy. We are source energy. So strengthening that connection to source, communicating with our intuition and receiving from our intuition, from the divine, and hearing the truth and accepting the truth. Not overthinking when it comes to all of that, but rather feeling into the situation whilst all of this is going on with the healing journey. And the other thing I wanted to mention, as you can see with the purple lines indicated on the chart here, is at the exact moment of this exact conjunction of Jupiter and Chiron, which for GMT, for us in the UK, Greenwich Mean Time, British Standard Time, is 5:36 a.m. tomorrow, the 12th of March. At that exact moment, we have the moon in Scorpio, not conjunct. I was going to say conjunct. I was looking at the South Node, which isn't conjunct, but but opposite Uranus. So we have the moon in Scorpio opposite, direct opposition to Uranus in Taurus. So Uranus in Taurus, calling for that change and innovation when it comes to our values and our worth, Taurus energy, and self-worth is part of that. Opposite the moon in Scorpio, deep emotions. So again, exact conjunction with Jupiter and Chiron, this healing journey that we're aware of, but could really be bringing up a lot of wounds that we need to address, trauma that we need to process and address. And at the same time, we have the planet of Uranus, which is calling for change and has been calling for change in the sign of Taurus, that is about our worth and values, opposing the moon, which is hitting on our feelings and deep feelings at that because of it being in Scorpio. And that can be quite harsh because that can be intense. So there could be that resistance, because they're in opposition, there could be that resistance of needing to change things up to get through the healing journey by embracing more of our worth, because we are trying to sort of hide or shut down our feelings. The feelings are too intense. The feelings run deep, Scorpio energy. The feelings about this change relating to our worth run too deep and could be quite challenging. But instead, to allow those aspects to work in our favor, if we can accept the feminine nurturing energy that's going on within Aries at that time to nurture us through the healing journey, then we feel safer to accept the change that's needed in our worth and values, and therefore our emotions, even if it might be deep emotions and feelings coming up, can be also accepted and acknowledged. And we can also use those deep feelings to allow for change if we can accept them. So there could be something really profound. So I'm thinking of deep. It could be very profound when it comes to an aspect of your healing journey that has been really difficult to face. And it's been easier to kind of push those feelings down, to not allow them to come up to the surface, to keep them pushed down. However, you know within that change is needed. And this healing journey and the feminine energy is again putting that metaphorical hug around you, around Chiron, around you, through your healing journey. So it's recognition that the feminine energy is assisting with the healing journey. So it's embracing your own feminine energy, whether you are masculine or feminine, embracing your own feminine energy to nurture yourself through by paying attention to your feelings, taking account of your feelings, but allowing your feelings to guide the change that's needed. And ultimately, this is about becoming more comfortable in our own worth and acknowledging our worth, because perhaps for too long we've been listening to other people and we have felt unworthy as a result. And this is the time where it stops, because the healing journey is calling for change as well. Jupiter is offering that expansive energy to assist with that also. Admittedly, that's all happening in Aries, and Uranus is in Taurus, different signs. But there is still an element of change that's needed because of the healing journey. And Jupiter is expanding visibility of that with this exact conjunction. So it's becoming more comfortable with our intuition, with what's going on in Pisces, acknowledging lessons from when Saturn was in Aquarius. So the past 3 years, what's been going on? Have I learnt the lessons? Were there any wrong turns? And remember, no choice is wrong as such, because we always get rooted back to where we need to be. So anything that is divinely intended for us will never pass us by, but it could just be a detour. But on reflection of Saturn now being in Pisces and reflecting back on his time in Aquarius, the past 3 years, one could be thinking, I could have actually gone down that road instead of this road, but maybe I needed to learn a few lessons. So that's why I chose to go down that road. And I recognize now I could have actually taken that route, but that's okay. I'm on this journey, I'm healing, and I'll get to my end goal eventually. And you get that confidence, that Aries energy of confidence within. You're healing throughout part of this as well, because you're learning the lessons, you're accepting the lessons, embracing the lessons, and using the wisdom that that's telling you to move forward. Because without Saturn coming into Pisces and showing us all of this from the past 3 years, how do we know? How do we know where we need to course correct? How do we know where we need to heal? So that's just an example. And Pluto, calling for that transformation as well, is also reminding us where things need to change. And if we've been maybe holding on to things that have not been serving us, where do things need to change? Because when he moves into Aquarius, that could also bring us lessons that we need to recognize, accept, appreciate, process, etc. So the healing journey that we're on at the moment is, of course, going to continue somewhat with all of that, because if we are going through this period of transformation and change, then we have to heal, we have to nurture ourselves through. So it's certainly embracing the feminine energy within, because there's a lot of masculine energy calling for change. But you need to remember your worth. You need to hold on to that sovereignty within and recognize that you are a divine soul with source energy, and that you can check in with your intuition at any point. You can receive information from the divine, but you need to ask for that and be open to receive it, to allow for that change, and to ensure that your feelings are in line with this so that you can nurture yourself through. If you're blocking your feelings, that's going to potentially lead to that conflict energy, because there's that inner knowing of recognizing that change is needed, but not wanting to face it. And that can be something that I'm sure a lot of people resonate with, because especially if it's deep-rooted trauma bonds or attachment bonds, wounds of the past, because we've maybe been holding on to them as a bit of a false comfort blanket, because sometimes it feels more comfortable to be in an uncomfortable position, which again sounds completely backwards. But if that's what we've been used to, if that's what we've been conditioned to believe, then it's more comfortable. It feels more safe. So stepping out of that feels like a step out of a comfort zone, even though it's stepping more into yourself, your true self, that alignment with your true divine self, source energy. So those are just things to bear in mind. And also recognize that with Lilith at the final degrees of Leo, there is still that more darker side when it comes to showing ourselves. Leo is very expressive energy, very confident energy, but there is that essence of, okay, maybe these wounds, transformation could be calling for being seen, but there are wounds connecting to self-worth, feelings are being pushed down, and that's what makes it hard. But Saturn being in Pisces is saying, when I was in Aquarius, all these things went on for you that were challenging your worth. And what you're going to do about it now, because you have this Piscean supportive energy. You are a beautiful soul, and you need to embrace your own worth within in order to continue with this healing journey and to emerge as the beautiful butterfly, which sounds quite cheesy, quite corny, it's quite cliche, but that is what we're all doing. We are emerging as our true, beautiful butterfly selves within our own sovereignty, and recognizing that this has been challenging, but the energy is also there to support us. Certainly that divine feminine energy is there to support us. So recognition of that. So let me just stop sharing this one. And I'm going to just bring up the UK's chart as well. Just to give you a bit of an insight. So again, this is for the UK. So the UK's natal chart is the inner wheel, the inner circle, and the Jupiter Chiron exact conjunction is the outer wheel. So this just shows the transits against that chart. Of course, it's going to be different for your charts. You might want to check your natal chart against the transits and just try and understand how this is going to resonate more for you. So this is, of course, based on collective energy using the UK chart. So, of course, could resonate with many people in the collective in the UK, or those of you watching, if it also resonates for you as well. It's general in terms of that, in terms of the reading, but it's based on this particular chart. So just important to bear that in mind. And it could not resonate, you know, for many of you, that's fine. But if it does resonate for you, hopefully it's going to help you in some way. So what we see here is we have at the top of this chart, you'll see the yellow lines, which again just indicate Jupiter and Chiron. So this exact conjunction at 5:36 GMT, British Standard Time, when they are both 14 degrees and both 26 minutes, this is happening in the 10th house for the UK. So that's about work and social status. So there might be some aspects of healing that are coming up relating to our social status or relating to situations in work that's challenging our sovereignty. What we also have is we have Uranus, so calling for change within the 11th house in the UK. So that's change within connections. What connections need to change? And really being truthful about that. The natal chart of the UK has Venus in its 11th house, but we also have Mars transiting through the 11th house. So in a way, yes, that brings a bit of balance, but they're in different signs. And this, again, just shows how unique natal charts can be and how the transits work with our natal charts, because they're in the same house, the 11th house, but different signs. So the Mars energy transiting through has been calling for that balance, that Gemini energy. And Venus is, of course, the feminine energy, and that's in Taurus. So that's very important as well, looking at this particular chart, because we have natal chart Venus in Taurus in the 11th house, and we have Uranus transiting through the 11th house in Taurus. So again, worth and values. So the feminine energy is also assisting there. Within the UK as a collective, to enable change in connections, but it's certainly embracing that feminine energy. And we know that feminine energy is there in the 10th house as well, because that is the feminine energy supporting Chiron and Jupiter, as I've mentioned before. And interestingly, sorry, I think I'm going to sneeze. Interestingly, we have Venus at 24 degrees transiting through Aries, and the natal chart Venus is 24 degrees as well. That's just something interesting that just caught my eye. So yeah, it's the feminine energy here, certainly in terms of our worth when it comes to connections and our social status when it comes to our sovereignty. Looking at where Lilith is, of course, we know Lilith is in Leo, and for this chart transiting through the 2nd house. So again, worth. When it comes to being seen, our social status within connections, there could just be some darker aspects to look into. Maybe even attachment to connections that are not serving us. So that needs to be looked at. And that's very close, 2 degrees away from the natal chart moon, which is in a different sign. It's in Virgo. And that was the full moon we saw last week, of course. But again, challenging our emotions when it comes to our worth and values, certainly wanting to ground in our emotions to feel stable, but having that Lilith energy highlighting where there may be some darker attachments to connections that challenge our worth, and certainly those connections that challenge our emotions when it comes to our worth. And with what's going on with the moon opposition to Uranus, we know that Uranus is in the 11th house, sorry, transiting through the 11th house of this chart in Taurus. And the moon in Scorpio is just there in the 5th house. So this is very much when it comes to loving connections, I would say. And we can have connections with people, places, things, of course. It's how it resonates for you. But that would be more attributed to the 7th house, in my view. The 11th house is the Aquarian house of connections with people. So when you've got the aspect of Uranus transiting through the 11th house of connections, opposing the moon just entering at that exact moment, you know, just 15 degrees into the 5th house of the UK's natal chart, it is that opposition energy when it comes to love and connections. So the Lilith energy, heightening feelings, emotions around worth when it comes to those darker aspects of being seen, perhaps by others, how others see you within connections, change needed in connections, and change needed in love connections. And the healing journey, of course, going on relating to our worth and our sovereignty when it comes to our warrior self and our courage and our social status as a result of that with the 10th house. But also in work, you know, the 10th house can be attributed to work. So maybe there's something coming up with regards to connections in work that are not loving connections. And that could be causing that opposition energy and really touching on the feelings when it comes to our worth and values, because there are darker aspects being shown to us at the moment in terms of being seen. Maybe we feel like we can't be seen. And that's also causing us to go within and needing to address those deep feelings, moon in Scorpio, because change is needed to rebalance ourselves when it comes to our worth with the Uranus in Taurus. And all of this going on whilst this healing journey is kind of at this point here. So there could be an expansion of that, but remember the light side of bringing hope. So we're getting through all of this, we're processing all of this that's coming up, and the feminine energy is there to support us get through this. There's hope on the other side. We've just got to process these wounds in order to transmute them and move forward, because we can't hang on to pain of the past. So just going to stop sharing, but Hopefully that resonates in some way for you, and certainly to acknowledge wounds that have been coming up to the surface. And it sounds, you know, even when I say wounds, we think of those negative connotations to it because of the pain and almost suffering that could be caused. And that can be emotional pain. It can be that metaphysical aspect going on within ourselves. Challenging our worth, that's all sort of inside. We need to address these things inside us. So that this could be calling for that introspection. And I still, you know, I keep saying it, but Mercury in Pisces, supporting that energy for us to connect to our source energy. That's going to guide us forward, but we need to listen to our intuition. That's very important. Our intuition is going to guide us through this healing journey, and our feminine energy is going to guide us through and nurture us through this healing journey that's calling for change, transformation, and ultimately that rebirth. Think of the phoenix rising from the ashes, but that rebirth, that emergence of that sovereign self within us all. And that's very powerful because of the power it can have on the rest of the collective, lighting the way for others, empowering others to do the same, to find the strength within and to truly embrace ourselves for who we are, our core essence, our worth, our values on point, and move forward in that way. So I hope this finds you well, and do reach out if you would like to dive further into your own natal charts. But of course, until the next time, I'm sending you love and blessings, certainly for this Jupiter-Chiron exact conjunction, because we have the moon opposite Uranus at the exact moment as well, same degrees. And I will speak to you very soon. Take care, everybody.